Welcome back, folks. It is time to get our afternoon session started. We are doing the rest of our CRUD app that we started this morning. Now, we had an extra long session. I'm sure we're going to have an extra long one together as well. So let's go ahead and start. Where did we leave off? Let's look at our dashboard. This is where we left off. We had found that in our database, our row of data that we inserted for a sighting is there. So bright light and sky, very big, then night, blah, blah, blah. Here it is. That's my data that I had just inserted. And it has a user ID of 2. Has a user ID of 2. Now, if I were to create another one here, what ID would appear next? Here. What would be the next row of data? What could we expect as far as IDs? Well, I think that's a good answer. James, let's go ahead and test it. I'm going to say the title of my sighting is a little green man. Little green man found a guy in my backyard the other day. He's green. Okay. Location, we'll say somewhere in Canada, and we'll give it a date. Were you abducted? No. Let's submit it. And if we go to our database, there it is. Now, why is it that the user ID is 2? I just want to see that you guys are still with me. What's going on here?
We are logging because the user is number 2.
User is number 2. Yes. The ID the ID here is going to increase gradually. It's going to go from 1 to 2 to 3 for every single post or sighting. But the ID of the user is going to be the same. Let's make let's make a couple more posts to fill out our table data so that we can see some functionality here as well. So let's go ahead and log out and log in as Kyle. So Kyle K at email.com, password 1. Oh, see, that's nice. At least my password check is working. So Kyle M. Sorry, why do I keep saying Kyle K? I don't know. It's something else. Password 1. Okay, so yeah, don't worry about that. Okay, so now we're in. What do we want to do? We want to create something, so let's go ahead and do that. Kyle, do you want to fill us in with your sighting if you have one?
Yeah, title about green lights.
Oh, I think
And
we may have this one in the database
oh,
already.
really? That was
Let's just say just double check here. No, we don't. Let's continue. All right, green lights. Yep.
okay. We'll just say looked out the window and saw a UFO entering hyperspace.
Where were you?
That's Bothell, Washington.
Okay.
Let's just say
And
June of 23.
2023. Okay. Thank you for calling in and telling us about your sighting. We believe you here. We will not shame you. Were you abducted?
No, I was not.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. We still have Kyle with us, untouched by those fiends. All right. Now we have what we expect to see here. The user title, the user ID for Kyle is 1. Kyle's the first user that we had created. And so the third citing post has the ID of 3 because they're going to increment by ID, but the user ID is going to be specific to our poster. All right, let's just do one for the sake of just doing it. All right, so let's do one more. Kyle, give me another one. Let's shoot.
Okay, title. Okay, let's see. Gotta keep this fun but clean.
Right, anyone in the chat can help. I mean, I'm
Oh
just
yeah. If
for,
anybody's got ideas.
for lighthearted fun while we learn for a second. Any ideas? I want to populate my table. Okay, James James is warning me here. Okay, he's warning me not to joke about this. So let's just fill our table data here.
I have an idea.
Okay.
Okay. Call it Alien Meat Scandal.
Alien meat scandal. Okay, so
Oh no, MEAT.
Oh, this is more interesting than I had anticipated. All right. Where
Okay.
what do we see?
A homeless man sold me what he claimed to be alien meat. Location, Portland, Oregon.
Oregon. How did you know he was homeless? Did you ask him? Or did you smell him? All right. Okay, were you abducted?
All right. Yes.
Oh.
The
All
story
right.
goes on.
We don't want to know. All right, we'll just leave that description. Okay, so let's take a look here. Now we have a full table with posts from both users. I do have a UFO story myself. I do have one. I know I'm joking about it, but I did see something while I was here in Texas. I've only been in Texas here for about a year now. And I got so sick of talking about it because I'm like, you know what? No one cares. Let's go ahead. Let's move on. Move along. All right, so what do we want to do? We want to see our database on our table, right? So we need to then create a read all method, right? I'm sorry, I'm giving out the answers as I'm speaking here, but feel free to interrupt me and give me some direction. I'm not gonna hog the mic here. So where do I need to go to then create a method, and how should I create it? Okay, well, a method for populating them. Yes, we need a method to fill in our table with actual data. This here isn't really grabbing from our database. This is HTML that we've written in. So we want to fill this title, abducted and posted by, with actual table data. Get all method. Yes, I said that. So let's go ahead and fill that in. What's the first step I need to do a get all method? What can I do here to?
Class method, then def get all.
Okay.
Class defining, use the query, select all.
Read
from
all sightings. Okay. And it's going to take in the class. Is it going to take in the class? Is this correct? Yes. All right. All right. So before I do that, I notice here that as I write more methods, I want to comment more so that my code is a little more organized. So this is a create one sighting method. Let's make this all caps. Okay, and this is a read all sightings method. Okay. And let's pull this, well, sorry. I get ahead of myself when I say what I need to do. What do we need to do at this point? What's the next step?
Query.
We need a query. Okay. All right. So this is going to be a fun query, isn't it? Because let's look at what we have to search for. We are populating our table with data. And we are also saying that we are able to read which one of these entries, which one of these posts belongs to the user that is currently logged in. So how do we do a read all from here that will okay, how about this? Let's just test some queries in our SQL here workbench and see what we can get to work for us. Okay. Select all from sightings. This is what we have here. Okay. And select all from sightings is good. It's a good start because it gives us every single post. But will this tell us at all which of the posts belongs to the user that's logged in? That's what I'm looking for as well. That's what I'm looking for as well. Because as you see here, for the ones that do belong to us, the ones that do belong to us, we do want to account for those so that we know which ones are ours so that we can edit and delete them and which ones are not ours. Okay, I see someone who's James. James, let's see your answer. Okay, so I see here, select all from sightings, join, and then you say, how about this? Join, you said, join, here's what I need though, join what on user's ID? I need to join, what am I joining from?
Users.
Yes, select all from join, and I'm going to select, I'm going to join the users table as well. So I'm going to say users, and then I'm going to say on which point do I connect them on?
User ID.
Right. Remember that our user ID is our connection to the specific user here. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and do that. Yeah. Okay. And you said user's ID equals, let's say, where, how about this? On sightings dot user ID, sightings dot user ID, where that equals user ID. And then what do we get from this query? An error. Okay, hold on a second.
Users. The ID.
There we are. Okay. So this is some data now we can work with. Reason is we get here the users table. We get here the users table. And from the users table, we're able to see which one of the posts belong to Josh or which ones belong to Kyle. We know by the ID here that's connected. This ID of 2 for me is connected to the user ID here. Okay. And so by connecting this table, what I'm able to fulfill is grab the name, right? So I can post the name on the table of the person that had created the post. So I have the name as well as information as to whether I am the poster of the sighting or not, right? When I am logged in and my session ID has my is my user ID, that session ID, if it's the same as the user ID in my table, then I'll show the edit button. And then we can also add delete. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Before I do that, how do I, sorry, I'm trying to avoid saying before I do that, but I can't avoid saying it. I said do. Before I do that, let me go ahead and ask you guys, are you guys following with me? I can't ask a poll. I can't send a poll out, so I normally would. Any questions? Do we fully understand why I connected the tables? It's so that when I see that my ID matches with the session ID of me when I had logged in, I can either edit or delete the recipe as well. Okay, just want to make sure we're there. Very cool. Let's continue. So, let's get this table on here now that we have our query nice and complete. Let's pull this here and use it. Select all from recipe, so from sightings, join here, and then maybe I'll indent here on the on, so it's a little bit more readable there. Okay. It doesn't matter which way you choose to put your query, either on one line or multi-line, as long as you're consistent, I guess. I just chose to go multi-line this time. All right, so next we say we're gonna do a query to the database. So we say connect to my SQL, add the DB. I want you to query the DB. And I'm going to send the query through. Okay. So now that I have my query, I need to save this somewhere. So let's create a variable to save it to. I'm going to call it the results. Okay. So now that I have this saved to results, what do I want to do with this? What does this return me? What is results? What's if I were to print it, what would I see? I would have to iterate through because it's a list of objects, right? It's a list of objects. Or sorry, a list of dictionaries. A list of dictionaries. Okay, so if we have a list of dictionaries, then we know we need a for loop to go through all of them, right? So let's skip this print. Let's create a for loop and say for each row in the results, I want you to create an instance of the class, right? So I'm going to say this class that I'm in, citing, I'm going to call myself, and I'm going to say this class, shoot, I lost my train of thought. I'm going to put in the row here. For each row that I iterate through, make an instance of the class of the row. Okay, but now that I have this here, I got what I wanted. I made an instance of it each time. Well, in that case, then I'm going to need to say, what? What do I need to do with this?
Put it into a list somehow.
Yeah, well, yeah, we have for every one that we do it, right? So I want to save this to a variable. Sorry, sometimes my questions are so open-ended and simple that I'm not sure if they're able to be understood here clearly. So recipe, I'm going to save it here. All right. Not recipe, citing. I'm thinking of this here, recipes. No, I'm thinking of a citing. All right. So for one citing, I am going to add it to a variable. And then what can I do with this variable? Append it. Okay. So we'll say citing dot what?
Then
Append. Okay.
append sightings or citing.
What am I appending it to? Ah, okay. I need to make an empty list. Okay. So let's create let's create an empty list so that we can append this to something. What do we want to call this list? Sightings? Okay. How about we say all sightings? That way it's a little bit easier, a little bit more descriptive. I know it's not that different, but just so that we are not working with just sightings and citing and there's a typo and there's an error. So let's make this list all sightings. Okay. And so now that we have something we can append to, we can say all sightings dot append this one sighting. All right. So now that we have a list that holds all the instances, where can we go from here? Well, let's see if we can get this data viewed on our page, right? So where do we go from here? I have now all the instances of all sightings. Okay. Now return all sightings. Where should I put that? Same indent as before. So for every time I loop through, I'm going to return. I think I can say right here at the very end of this function, I should return all sightings here. This is the we're still within here, but not within the floor. If we return every time, then it will just exit the first time, and that will be not good for us. So we'll say return all sightings. And so that fulfills that. Okay, so let's double check our work here. We append all to all sightings, a single sighting, and we said a single sighting was an instance here. So for each row, we were to continue. Manjira, I see here that you're coming in a little late. Sorry for the confusion. I had to move class back because there was a gardener right outside my window. So apologies for the we have the beginning of the lecture recorded, so we'll let's continue here. Okay, so now we're going to return, and so is there anything else that we may be missing before we test? Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this. Now that we return all sightings from our read all sightings method, we call this method here in order to see the sightings. So where are we? We are wanting to, at this route here at sightings, when we reach this route, we should see all sightings. So let's go to the sightings route. Where is my, oh, here. So here's my sightings controller. And this is create sighting. Where is my sightings? This is why. Ah, we got that from our users controller, actually. So our users controller takes us to sightings. In fact, this is because when we built our app originally, we didn't have a one-to-many, and so we only had one controller. So arguably this could be in either one, but let's just keep it here for now. We know where it is. Okay, so here is where we wanted to call the function to see all sightings. Okay, so where should I put it? Where the R print statement is now, right above what line here? $49, okay. And I can delete this print statement. I no longer have use for it. So I'll say, what should I enter here? Var name, get all. Read, okay, okay. And what should be the variable name? Sightings list. Okay. Okay. So let's go here. Before we don't want to redirect here before we get all the sightings. So let's go here and say sightings. How about this? Sightings equals, and then our statement that we need. Let me read the comments here, because at this point I want to test you guys here a little bit. Where do we go from here? What's the proper syntax that I want to assign to this variable? Okay. So we're gonna say
You do class and then dot. What was the name of it?
what's the class name?
Read all sightings.
ID.
What's the class name?
Oh, it's citing.
Right.
Capital S.
dot read all sightings.
And we have to import it. I think.
Right. Okay, good call. Okay, so at the top here, we now need to connect to our model. And so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to say Flask, excuse me, app, models, recipe model, now sighting model, import sighting. So now this should be all right. Okay, so now we have our, our variable. And so what do we do with this sightings?
You pass our variable into the param or into the argument for render templates.
Okay, so now I have it. I have a variable name. And so if I give sightings to sightings, that it could work like that. But I like to make a little differentiation here because it gets a little it makes me cross-eyed a little just to not know what is what, right? So instead of making it all just called sightings, I'm going to say all sightings. This was James's recommendation here. James, you said a circular import here is gonna break it. I'm gonna just double check that. Okay. I'm not sure this will break it. Okay, let's test it. If it does break, then I need to know this as well. I think I may have made an error like that previously, but I haven't made that error enough to be so familiar. So let me see here. Let's look at our server. Let's restart it, see if it starts. Okay, we have an error. Oh, is this the error? Ah, okay. So, Flask app. Okay, so now we're up and running. So let's go ahead and take a look. And what did I expect to see? Well, our query ran, and so it looks like it's not breaking, but I didn't actually do anything to see the data. So let's go ahead and see if we can print it. I just want to see what it looks like before I try to grab it. So where was I? I was in the dashboard. And we called it sightings here. So let's print it. Let's print it so I can see it. Print all sightings. So let's refresh. And now that we refreshed, we should see it. But we need to parse through it. Okay, so there it is. Here's each object. But we need to actually open it up to see what's inside. Okay, so what do we do here? We want to see the data. We need to open up each object's data. So how can we iterate through each of these objects in this list and say, show me the data for this and this and this and this using Jinja style iteration, right? So we're going to use a for loop in Jinja that says for each sighting in the list of sightings, show me the sightings name and then something else we're going to need as well. which is the name of the person that created the sighting. So let's do one thing at a time and go back to our HTML on our dashboard. Okay. So let's go ahead and remove our dummy data. We said here that we wanted what? What do we want here? We want the title. So we know Jinja has this bracket here, and we're going to need a title from the dictionary. But how do we iterate over in a for loop using Jinja to see this information? Okay, so did I name it in my render template parameters? You're saying here in my I said sightings equals all sightings. You see that, James? Yeah, so I'm actually passing in a variable into the render template of dashboard HTML with this one here saying sightings. So how can I take advantage of this variable here that I created? Yeah, that's why I named them differently, so that we have a better understanding of which one we're parsing through. This is the name of the variable. This is what's inside. What's inside is this variable that holds this here. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to our dashboard, and we're going to need something to iterate over the data. Okay, I already have this table built in here, so let's create our our for iterator. So let's go ahead and do that. And where do I want to do that? I want to do that within the body, right? Because I'm not going to iterate in the title. The titles are set. So I say J4, and I say for
Citing in sightings.
okay. So then let's take this end piece here and move it down. And I'll just put it at the bottom of the body. Okay, so if I say sighting.title, will this replace this? Let's test it out. And there we are. We have 4 different titles. Now let's go ahead and take the abducted and say, which one is that in? That's the second one. There we go. So the next one here. Sighting.abducted. Mouse got a suspicious amount. Kyle, we knew that talent wasn't something you worked for. The aliens must have done something to you. So now we have to have the posted by. Now here's something we have to do that's a little bit more creative. A little bit more creative as far as saying citing dot something. How do we get the name of the person that had posted it? But here's a fun trick question. Go ahead and let's see the chat. What would we have for answers here? Okay. Well, at least we know one thing, right? We know one thing that we're iterating through sightings. So we can start from that base point. We can say sighting dot what? Any ideas? Citing dot user ID, right? That's nice. How do we know that, Nian?
Because we join those tables.
Yeah, because we're pulling these tables. We're saying citing that user ID dot what? Sorry, dot what? Which column am I calling now?
The users.
Let's look at my example. Okay, what are these names?
First name.
First name. First name from which table?
Users.
users.
So we just say first name. Yeah. Use dot notation. Let's see if this works. Oh, it's broken. Let's see what we did wrong. Okay. We got citing dot user ID. Maybe that's the part that's not right. Because I'm pretty sure we should be getting something. So let's see. Just maybe citing dot user ID. We should get something from that, right? Okay, so okay, we get the user ID. That's good. Oh, okay, interesting. So we're saying maybe we have to specify in a query in order to get that information. Because if we say first name, we're not able to yet get it. So any suggestions as to what we could or should do here? You need to so to get stuff from the join, you need to specify users dot first name in your select. Okay, so let's go ahead back to the not user model, sorry, the citing model. So what can we do here in our query to fix this?
Can you print the result real quick?
Okay, let's look at the results. So what do you want me to print?
I just like remember when Kyle's did his demo, we have because we use join and sometimes the ID is not what uh we thought it is. So I'm not sure what result is right now. And maybe we have to make a new list of objects.
Okay, well you have the code for Kyle's, and maybe take a moment to pull it up, see what we can find. Okay, so I see James here saying you need to step to join, you need to specify users dot first name in your select. Okay, what does that mean exactly, James? So where do I go in order to do this? Okay. And if you replace the star with your specific columns, very nice. Okay. Select all from sightings, but I still need to see all the sightings, right? So there's something I need to do, and I'm letting you guys struggle with it, and then we're gonna figure it out right now. So let me pull it up here. Okay, here's what we have to do. One second. Sorry, 1 second. I lost my. I lost my page here. One second here. I lost my footing for a second. One moment. Okay, so read all, okay. Make a second list. Okay, what does that list contain? Okay. So it's a little tricky here, but it's good that we struggle to so that we can remember what we need to do. Okay. So we need to above here, we need to say here we are. We're gonna say citing dot user ID or citing dot citing dot we can say in Kyle's code we use oh yes, he used the star row. Kyle, I'm not used to using your star row style of pulling that in. I'm still a new learner to that, but I have another method. But if you want to interject to show how you would do that, I wouldn't mind either.
Yes, just a quick refresher for all of you guys. Star row is a pretty nifty command that allows you to copy all the key value pairs of a given item. So, if you, let's say you have, all right, so in this situation, we have row, right? And row is, I'm assuming yes, it's a join query. So it's going to have information about the users and the sightings, right?
Right.
So in this situation, sightings should be easy to create because it's on the left side of the join. And everything on the left side of the join takes precedence over things on the right side when it comes to naming. Because as we can see here, there are some ambiguous names. That is, there are two IDs, one for the user and one for the, one for the sighting and one for the user, respectively. And so what we essentially have to do is build something that's going to allow us to translate all of the names from that dictionary into something that is available for the user constructor. Because if we were to just pass in the dictionary, it would have the ID for the citing, not the user. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that dictionary that has the row in it, and we're going to copy all of the key value pairs in that. So we could do that by saying star row, and that will go through and copy every single line of it. It's not copying the dictionary itself, it's copying the key value pairs inside of that dictionary.
Ooh.
So it's a pretty useful thing. There's something similar in JavaScript for those of you who may be familiar, known as a spread operator. And in JavaScript, that syntax is ... and then the name of your object. So if we want to create a new row a new dictionary that's going to have the data we need in order to create a user.
Yeah.
Generally, what I'll do is I'll make a dictionary. We'll start with a new dictionary here. We'll say like user data.
Okay.
And then inside of user data, we'll go ahead and type star row to make a copy of the row. Because otherwise, we would have to go. We'll need the syntax for a dictionary, so we'll need the curly braces.
Okay. So
inside of the curly braces, we'll put star row. And now that will copy all of the key value pairs.
Okay. That copies the key value pairs in all the rows and then assigns it to user data. So then I guess from here, what I say is then user data at, I mean, it's the same query, right? For this whole join table.
Yeah. So let me is it okay if I run a quick demo?
Sure, I just had another method, and I know you started this way of teaching, so I want to just keep it consistent for now.
Okay. So this looks good so far. So star row, and then from there we can put in the changes we want to make, because otherwise, if we didn't do star row, we would have to go through every single key value pair and saying this equals that, this equals that, this equals that, this equals that. Star row basically just means change nothing and copy all the key value pairs. And then we only have to override the specific ones that we want to be different.
Okay. Let me just make a comment for that, for those that didn't understand it. Makes it reads through and makes a copy of each key value pair in the dictionary. Is that fair enough to say that? So now I can say for the key and value that I want, I'll say user data dot, which I'm trying to get is the first name here for this table. My method of doing it would have been to add another key to this add another attribute called the creator. I would have said like citing dot creator equals, and then I would have said I would have grabbed a let's see, where would I have grabbed the data from here? I would have made a dictionary and say for each row. Okay, so I did do it the hard way. I did say for each row to add each. So I now see the benefit of star row. Okay, I kind of answered my own question there. Okay, so now that now that I know how star row works, this is really cool. I get it here. Yeah. So what this does is let me just comment this out for a second and show you what this is doing in case you're not sure and it just looks like gibberish. So this is the equivalent of me saying user data equals and saying ID equals row, because this is a dictionary, row at users.id. Should put this in quote. Okay. And then first name being row at first name. So instead of doing this process, which I'm going to do anyway, I'm showing that star row, this really cool trick that I just learned from Kyle, saves us the effort of doing this. I'm going to write this out and put it in the video just so that we know for ourselves what it does, because that looks like a really cool trick that we never want to forget. Because look how much work this is going to save us. Email, and then row at email. Password. So I'm getting the user data from which table? I'm getting all this information. I'm making my own dictionary and grabbing for each row of this whole entire set. I'm going to make a dictionary and add the values in each of these rows. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's just like one giant table, but I'm grabbing a dictionary that's going to say every single row, fill it with for every single row, fill it with this specific data and put it into my new dictionary. Right? So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll say row at password created at this data we're not going to actually use, but I'm just putting it there so you can see for the sake of we'll say users dot created at. So I'm grabbing from the users table, and then I'm saying updated at row users dot updated at. That's the comma. Okay. So this grabbed everything. And what this does, well, this here grabs something specific. It's making a table essentially. And it's saying, make this user data dictionary. This is the data that I need in order to make this view of this table happen. So we get the ID of the user, and then we grab a row for the first name, last name. We don't need the last name or email or password or any of this, but I'm just showing how we can get this information. Okay, so now that I have my user data, what can I do with this? Let's go ahead and add it in so that we can parse through it. So I'm going to say that I'm going to add it to this citing. I'm going to add it to this citing because this citing equals a new iteration of our list of dictionaries. So I'm going to add to our citing. I'm going to append to it. I'm going to say citing dot, and I'm going to give a new key value here. I'm going to say creator, because this is the creator of this citing. I'm going to say this equals to, and then I'm going to grab from this citing model. I can say class, or I'm going to say I can say class. And I will say, we'll add it to, grab it from this here, user data. User data. In fact, you know what? I can name this something better. I'm going to say, this is a creator data. Okay. So now that I've appended it to my citing, and I said all citings, I want to append a single citing to all my citings. Now I can go back to my dashboard and say citing dot user ID dot what?
First name.
There we are. I finally got it. Not your answer, but finally in the code. Okay, so we broke our code. Let's go ahead and restart it. User ID. So we got a bug. Let's see what we got. Row user ID. So let's go to line 72.
I think it's users, because
Users.
this is a table. Yeah.
Start it. Okay. Let's see here. No, it's looking at the user underscore ID. So this user ID is in data. It's on line 9 of our citing model. Line 9 of our citing model. Okay. So are we getting a user ID from our data? That's what we need to know. Or is there an error in our spelling somewhere? Either we're not receiving data or we have a typo somewhere. Okay, so let's see.
I think I had like similar situation before, and I don't think we need line 9. Yeah, but I don't know why. I don't know how to
Go with
explain
it.
that.
I don't want to guess too much here. No, that's not it. Okay, no. Let's debug this. What I want to see here. Oh, title. Title is the main error. So let's see here. Oh no, now it's back to user ID. Okay, let's see if our server's still fresh. Yes. Okay, so user ID. So where's the disconnect? We have self.userid equals data at user ID, and it's not liking this value. Do we have a data.userid? So how are we filling this? It's because we are our view all, right? So our read all, and our read all here, let me double check something. Data at user ID. Our read all is going through and it is saying select all from sightings, join on users. And so, oh, okay. I think it's confused on which user ID. Because our query, let's look at our query again. Oh, a query only has one user ID. So it's not receiving it though. Okay, select all from sightings, join on users, on sightings, user ID, where user's ID. Yes, that's how we got our table. Called it the results. And then we iterated through results and we said for each row, create a citing. And then each citing that we, instance of a citing that we create, we also assign a creator. Let's pause this for a second and see if this is the error here. So this is what is causing it here. So something we did here could be improved. Okay. So it's ambiguity in your created data dictionary. Possibly. Let's look into it. So I have here to append a citing, and I have here citing.creator, and I take in this class and I say grab this creator data. Okay, so let me double check my creator data here. I have the ID row at user's ID. I have my first name. I grab that from my first name column. I don't need to look at my query. And then I have my last name. Grab email, password. And then I also say created at we grab the users dot created app. Maybe I need to say, I have to give here an ID that's like user, no, this should be it, user's ID. Let's change something up here. I'm gonna say, instead of class, I'm gonna say user, let's see, users model dot user
Um,
user model. Yes, Manjira?
I'm just wondering, thank you for checking. So in the thing, I mean, the row of the same thing you dwelled over, users.id, that would, it's for the key, you're actually giving the value of the ID. So I'm wondering if that is not right. Same with the created at and the updated yet at.
Sure, let's test it. I think I wouldn't mind testing it at this point, but I was onto a solution here. Let me just put it on pause and see what you're thinking about. Okay, so let's refresh this. No, see, now it's complaining about ID. And so let me just continue on my train of thought, and I'll be right back to test what you're thinking in just a second here. We'll debug from this point if it breaks again. But I think what I want is, I want to clarify here. I'm grabbing from my user model. I'm grabbing a user. I'm saying to this class, I want to create a user object. Okay, I'm going to create a user object called creator data. From creator data, excuse me. And I'm going to pass it into citing.creator. And I'm grabbing from the user model, not from this class, which I was grabbing from. So there's my confusion. Sorry for the hold up there. Let's go ahead and continue. So I'm grabbing here and I'm saying user model. So I need to go ahead and pull in my user model. So I'm going to say from Flask, Flask app models. I'm going to import my user model. Okay. And so this is why I messed it up. I put class because I was trying to shorthand, but I didn't, that shorthand I think was what broke it here. So now let's go ahead and take a look again. And if we look here, no, I say user, and now at least we know it's not broken. So we are very close to getting this posted by. Let's look to what we can do to fix that. All right, so let's look again at our first name here that we're looking at. Instead of user ID, I see now, we're going to say citing.creator first name. So we're going to say creator first name. And there we have it. Okay, so now we have this. We have our read all, and this is quite the challenge, right? So we have read all. And we have our create done. So we have create, read all. We have now 3 things left: read, 1, edit, and delete. All right. Okay, so I know that one was a doozy because we struggled a little with it, but do we see how we fixed that here? Do we see how we got that fixed? We said instead of class, we need to pull from the user model and add to the user class, from the user class, we add creator data, which is this object that we had filled. Then we said citing.creator, so we gave a new key value to this instance of the class, and we called it creator. And we looked into our user model, we said user, and then we fed it this creator data. Like the Dojo Pets exercise. I do remember the Dojo Pets vaguely. I think it was something like this. Nian, I see your hands raised.
Can you explain the whole things again, like from the old sizing to the return?
Yeah.
Because I got lost every time when I did this.
Yes. No. Fair enough. I did take a while to explain. So let's go ahead and go through
Thank you.
it. So we have the beginning, which is our query, right? Our query is a join table, which looks like this. This is our query. This is the results of our query. Okay, what can we do with this? We call a variable results. This is our database connection. And then we say, for each row that we get from our database connection, we're going to add it to all sightings here. Okay, we're gonna append to all sightings something called sighting that's an instance of the class that we throw a row inside. Okay, so we feed a row to this class call. We call it a sighting. We append that to all sightings, and that's what we return. What did we do here? Here, we created an object called creator data. The reason why we created this object is because we needed to access our user model. Our user model's class and say, add to our sighting instance a new key value pair, which is going to receive this object data. And what this does is it creates an object here where we can pass in this needed data so that we can pull it from our Jinja for loop. So what we're pulling it here is sighting.creator. This is the new value we gave it. And we said from the user's model dot user, give me this data, creator data. Okay, and we filled it in with an ID. We gave it a row from the user's ID. So which one is that? Let's see here. Users.id. So it gave us all the IDs here of each row. First name from the row and get it from the column first name. So it's grabbing each of here, the first names on this column. Okay, we're grabbing last name as well. We're grabbing email, we're grabbing password. And we're getting the created at and updated at of what specifically? Of users, right? Okay, we're just calling that the data of the creator of this post. And we're adding it to .creator, and we're adding that to citing. So we can pull anything from this now dictionary. We can say creator dot last name, creator dot email, right? We can say creator dot password. We can show the password, which is not good, but we can grab all the data from our query, create an object, and then from this object, from this from this dictionary, access the user's model, and then add this data in so that we can give it to this key here, citing.creator, which has all the values of here. So it's a dictionary within a dictionary, if you can see that. This is our dictionary within citing. Okay, this is a key, the key for this creator here is what we're giving here. We're defining it right here. Does that make more sense, Nian?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay. So here we are. We now have 3 more things to do. We need to be able to view, edit, and delete. And we also need to be able to say, for the user that posted the citing, I want to see this functionality, but I only want to be able to see edit and delete if it is my post. I don't want everyone to be able to see edit and delete as well. So there's something I have to be able to block off there using Jinja. So this page is not yet done. So let's think about how we can block out the edit and delete if they are not our posts. Right? So how can we do that? I'm pulling up the HTML here. What kind of logic gate can we use in order to decide? What if we did is fed it to the user constructor instead and append that new user attribute? Okay, that's another way of doing it. Maybe build it and show us your code. But right now, I'm going to just continue because we're plowing through here. We need to make more time. All right. So what I'm looking for is an if statement. Okay, I'm looking for an if statement. So let's create some spacing here so that we can make this if statement a little bit more visible. All right, so I'm going to push this down, and I'm going to write my if statement around this edit and delete. Okay, so what can I do here in order to do that? What's the if statement I need to write? What is the value being assigned to ID? Creator for rows user ID. Okay, it looks like we still have questions about the show all. All right, so let's go back to the show all in just a second. I want to finish what I was asking. Let's make an if statement here, okay? And we're going to say, put these inside the if statement. Now, what am I testing for? What am I asking here? It needs to be complete to see it. What am I looking at here? I want to say, only show me edit and delete if it belongs to me. Right? The user that is in what? Session. All right, I see the answer in the comment. James, let's go ahead and put your code in. So if, and then we're going to say if session at user ID, okay, remember to put the quotes in here, is equal to citing dot what? Citing dot user ID. Because the user ID tells us who created the citing. So let's go ahead and refresh this. And here we have it. The first two posts that I created, I'm currently logged in as Kyle. So I see my posts here that I can edit and delete. Okay, so now let's go back to your question, Manjira. I see that you're having some questions about this object still, right? And how and why we're populating it. Is that true?
No, I'm just wondering what would be the value assigned to ID, because a row of one or two, what would that be? I feel like that's not going to be an ID.
Okay, let's see here. So we're saying ID equals the row's users dot ID. So we're specifying which table we're getting it from. It's this users table. And so we have our users, which has our normal data of first name, last name, password, email. And it has the user that we created. Okay. And this here is grabbing, I guess, from users as well. Let me see if that would, does it make a difference if I remove this? Let me see. That's a good question. That lines. Yeah, I think I was just a little inconsistent in naming it there. This is grabbing still the same data we need from the row, and that the ID that it's grabbing, I believe it's the first row that we see. The table that's on the left takes priority, so it's grabbing the ID from here. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So I had it specified because I'm seeing that I'm grabbing from two different tables. And I know that only this information is available from that user's table. For the ones that may be confused, where they have multiple IDs or multiple created at, updated at, then I'm specifying. I hope that's okay. You got that? It's a little more clear. So this one, there's a column for ID here. There's a column for ID here. And then there's also the created at and updated at, which are on both tables. So I'm just saying I only want the ones from the users table, and I only want the ID from the users table. So I'm just being very specific here. But this is only available on the users table, so I don't need to specify, right? Because that's not going to show up on the sightings table. Only this stuff is on the sightings table. Title, description, location, date, scene, abducted.
So the keyword can be a a number or a date kind of a thing,
The
like the
keyword,
way you are assigning it. Because a row of when it the users.id is a number, it's not like the ID, the word ID, right? Like the
Right.
first name,
Right.
last name.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it,
this is a number.
not the whole thing, but just the keyword within the row, within the square braces. So that is a number there, and in the
Yes.
created at, you updated at, it's a date. So and that's okay for
Yes. Yeah, we can choose whatever data we want from our table. It's okay to grab whatever we need. It could be a number, it could be a date, it could be a string. We can add a number as a value for a key. And this comes out, this date comes out as a string as well. If we look at if we print it, let's see, I think we have a print of it somewhere. We'd have to make a print statement. Let's do it. Right, so if we print it, oh, here's the object. Okay, so let's see here. Creator data.id, creator data dot created at. Do we get it? It doesn't want to print it. Why? Created at, should be right. Okay, I'm not sure this explanation is worth debugging for, but I'm sorry if it's not as clear as I can make it. I'm just struggling here to make this print it now show for some reason. Okay. Has no attribute ID. Creator data.id. Yeah, it is here. Creator data.created at. Well, there must be a typo somewhere. I'm not sure exactly why that's not printing. But yes, to answer your question plainly, yes, you can give a value of a number or a string or a date that's a string as well. Okay, sorry for the long-winded explanation there, but that's what I meant to say. I just wanted to prove it with the print. I'm not sure why I didn't want to print. Okay, so here we are. Now let's go ahead and finish this off. Let's go ahead and do this view citing functionality. So in order to view a citing, I'm going to have to create its own HTML page. So let's go ahead and then go to the templates. I'm going to add this here. I'm going to say read one citing.html. So I know what this does now. And so here I'll say, let's look at our wireframe. Here says welcome, and then it says the name of the person. So let's go ahead and say that. Let's start with the welcome H1. And we are grabbing it from current user. So let's grab it from here. Okay, that's what we're going to need there. Then we're going to have to need all this information. So we're going to have to do a read one query whenever we get to this page. And as you can tell, whenever we click the recipe here, what are we sending as far as information to the route? What's the ID there that you're seeing?
citing ID.
Okay, it's a citing ID. Okay. Yeah. All right. So then every time we click this link, we need to be able to create a route that sends to sightings and then an ID. So let's go ahead and do that route. And then we can start rendering this page and see the first name. Okay. So now that we have this, actually, we can't test this yet. Let's just go ahead and say hello world. Hello world. And I put it in the wrong place anyway. Okay. Hello world. And so let's get to seeing this. Read one sighting. Let's create the route. Where should this route exist? Where does the route for view one sighting exist? In the sightings controller. Okay, so this is a route that let's find out where we want to put this one. Create. And this is a route that receives data from, okay. Create sightings page. Okay, and we already did this here, so we don't need to see this. So let's go ahead and say app.route. And then we say sightings. Sightings, and then the name, the ID number. Okay, so how can we pass in the ID? Remember, when we
Use
pass in
the
an,
double caret and
Yep.
then you do integer,
Yep.
int,
Yep.
and colon ID.
Yes, perfect. All right, so we have that. Let's go ahead and write the function to make this work. Okay, so def show one sighting. And then I'm going to pass in the ID. The ID of the route that had been selected. And when we go here, we want to check that we're in session, right? So just like the other route, we want to protect to make sure that we don't get here to this page just by typing in this route in this search here. So let's go ahead and protect this by saying if user ID is not in session, then go ahead and redirect us back to the home route. So where's my, if not, there it is. I lost it, there we are. If not, user.validate quest form, no, that's not it. Here it is, there it is, there it is, there it is. If user ID is in session. Okay, well, I'll just write it from scratch. If user ID not in session flash, you must be logged in to view this page. And then we'll say session.clear. And then we'll say return redirect back to the home. Okay, so that is if the user ID is not in session. So we've covered that. So when we type in this route, we're going to go to sightings and then the number of the ID. What we want to do here is a read one. Okay, so let's then create a query so that we can read one? How can we create a query to read one?
Similar to the select the show all, and then you specify where the ID is.
Yeah, so you say select all from sightings where ID equals and then 2, right?
Equal to,
This way you get that specific sighting for the ID that was created for it. Okay, so we need to have this query, and this query is not going to go into our route, but our route's going to need to access a method that does do that. So we're going to have to say recipe dot no, sorry. Citing dot read one citing. And then we are going to have to call this method in order to make this work. So let's go ahead and have our citing model to the right here. This is for read all. So now that we finished the read all, we're going to say read one. Okay, so read one citing. Okay, we have a read one citing. Let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and create my method. I'm going to call it read one citing. I'll call it class method. Do I already have one called read one citing? Hold on a second. This is where sometimes we don't want to repeat code. So what's the similarity? Oh, no, I didn't create it yet. I don't know why it's showing up. Read one citing. Oh, it's because I'm calling it here. I scared myself for a second. Read one citing. And what I want to do here is make a function call. Okay, so I'm gonna bug you guys here a little bit more. What's the way do we get started here?
query.
You would set your query out. Yeah.
Okay, set my query up. Okay. And so let's go ahead and pull here this query. Query equals. Ian, you have your hand raised?
Yes, the question is from earlier. So I was stuck at the citing controller. I don't understand why you have to make that if statement to see if the user ID is in the session, because when you are in the citing page, it means you already logged in.
Ah, yes, good question. Because what if we're here and we're a hacker and we want to just guess routes? We start putting random routes in here. We start typing in in this case it's recipes, right? So I'll keep it here, recipes. And then I start putting in routes manually. You're right. In order to click this, in order to get to this page, we'd have had to click this and we'd have to be logged in session already. But in case someone starts adding routes and start guessing where things could be and putting ID numbers, they could potentially start pulling data if we don't guard against them checking against random routes.
Oh, I see. It makes
Okay.
sense now. Thank you.
Yes, I'm glad you asked. Okay, so we always want to protect all of our routes so that everybody should be in session every single time, and there shouldn't be any guessing, but some people can and will figure out a way through your website, and so you have to protect yourself there. Okay, so we are writing a query, and so let's say this query is going to say select all from sightings where ID equals, instead of here 2, we're going to say %sign S, and then we're going to wrap it with parentheses here, and then we're going to say ID. Where do we get ID from for our query? Where are we getting this ID from? What are we missing in our parameters here?
Data.
Data, okay. And where are we getting data from?
Controller, and you would get it from session.
Okay. And well, maybe what ID do I get from session?
Your user ID.
Of who?
Creator? No.
Yeah, of the person that's in session right now, Kyle. Do we need Kyle's ID here?
Oh no.
Which
No.
which ID do we need then?
The creator.
The
Citing
ID of the post, right? The ID of the rest of not the recipe, whatever, the post, the citing. Okay, so here we have they each have their own ID. Remember, they can be 1, 2, 3, 4. When I click view citing, I'm passing in this ID here. I'm getting this ID and I'm pushing it into the route. And I'm getting the ID of the citing. That's why we have it in the route here. Okay, so we need to get it to this here. All right, so we haven't figured out how to make that work from the HTML, but we know that it's going to be receiving an ID. So this is enough to have. So where then you said we needed it from data. Okay, so let's get out of here and we'll say we're going to create an object called data, and we're going to say data is going to hold an ID, and the value of this ID is the ID, this ID that we passed in. So we're giving data an ID, and so when we here create this data object, we can use it in order to make this query work. Okay, so let me just get organized a little bit here. Okay, here's my data object. And so I need to add this read one citing also to a variable. So I'm going to call this one here citing. Citing equals this one citing that has been read. And I'm also going to say our what are we here looking for? I'm saying my ID here that I'm passing in from data. So where do I pass in this data here?
Into our read one citing.
Yep.
In the arguments.
Yep. So I put it in here. Okay. And so now that I have my citing finished, I have my variable that has my data for the ID that I need to run this query. What do I need to return?
Your HTML for your
Yeah,
read
awesome.
one citing,
Yes.
a render template.
So here we are. We're going to say read one citing .html. Okay. And for citing, I'm going to give the value of that one citing. And what else do I need? I need to know. Well, actually, I think this is enough for now. Let's see what's wrong here. Is my return too far out? I think it needs to be a little bit in. Ooh, that was bad. Okay, why did I do that? Okay, now it's fixed. Is that all I needed? Okay. Okay, so here we are. Let's restart this. Does it run? Okay, it runs. Okay, so let's go ahead and click View Citing. And something about a route broke. I got a little excited there. Read one citing.html. Okay, did I get that spelt right? Read one citing.html. It should return render template. And I say citing equals citing. What am I missing here? Is it not?
Your model.
I don't think we finished writing out our
Yeah,
method.
the model doesn't have a return. or
Sorry. I'm getting a little excited. All right, so I forgot the model here. So let's do something with this query. Okay, so now we have our query. What do we do with it? We use our query for our data call. So our database call. So we say connect to MySQL. We pass in our database. This is where we want to connect, query the DB, and say add our query plus our data. And so this information, we want it saved somewhere. So we say save it to results. Okay. Now that we have our results saved somewhere, we're going to return our an instance of this class of citing with results at index 0. Yes. Yes, because it's a 1 and we want the one and only citing there. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this again. Let's go ahead and click. And we missed it again. Got a little excited. So what did we miss? Let me see here. Did we let's print our results. Let's check also our terminal in case that sometimes gives a hint as to why we broke it. So if we click citing, runs the query, select all from cite. Okay, that was for the refresh. This is for the print statement. So I think I want to delete that print statement. Where am I printing the data? Here, I have to think about a couple of things at once here. Where did I make that print statement and what can we do to fix it? Seems like we're nearly done with this one here. So let me just double check my work. I have this results. I have my connect to the database. I query. I pass in the query. I pass in the data. The data is being pulled from this class method that we call when we say citing read one citing. Is it the same name? Read one citing. Is it spelled properly? Yes. Okay. Yeah, spelled the same. Okay, so let me just parse through here. Okay, how about this? Oh. Silly me. Can anyone guess what it is? It's kind of funny how silly it is. This href to view citing, does it have a route at all? No. So we're gonna have to fix that, and that was the last piece of the puzzle. Okay, so let's go ahead and take care of that. How then do we get that recipe, or sorry, citing ID? How do we get that citing ID? What can we put in this route? Well, we know the first part. I'm just going to say citings, and then
You do
The
Jinja and then
couple,
sightings
yeah, change
ID.
value. Mhm.
okay. So this is grabbing the citing ID. Oh, and there we go. We have our first route, but we have now something wrong with our HTML display. Okay, so what's going on here? Let me see. View citing. None of them are working. Maybe it's something wrong with our route. Sightings. We forgot a T there. View citing. Ah, we got a hello world. All right. Looking good. Okay, so now let's go ahead and fix this page up. It should be as easy as pulling the information from our select one. But before we do that, we're going to need the proper greeting. So we're going to have to say hello, and then the current user in session. So how can we grab that? How can we grab the current user in session and pass it in to our rendered template here so that we can read it? So we know we need to pass in something here. So that was my hint. We're going to say current user equals current user. All right, so let's give a value for what we need to use our Jinja to open up here. So what can we put into this value here to grab the data that we need?
You set it equal to session user data or user ID.
Okay, so it is, yes. So session user ID. User. How did we save it to session? We saved it, yeah, user ID there. User ID. Okay. Oh, and one more thing. So we passed it in as current user. And so so we have here this current user is this one who is currently in session. And with this session ID, I think we're good to receive it. But I actually want to pass this in, I think, in a dictionary. Let's see. I don't know. Let's go ahead and try and grab it. So let's go to this read one. And we said here, how do we have it before? Current user, so we have that here. Let me get that from here. Hello. Current user dot first name. Okay, so hello current user dot first name, and oh, we need to, does session first name have an ID here? I'm not sure that that does. Let's see. Okay, so if I click view citing, hello, oh, and we are missing something here. So we need to add to current user, not just an ID, a session ID, because that's going to be what lets us know what the current user's ID is logged in. But I need to grab the first name of the user in session. Okay, I need to grab the first name of the user in session. So I actually need to make a query for this. Let's use the session ID to make a query for the name of the user in session. Okay, so I'm going to say, let's look at my user controller. Sorry, my user model. And I have one already called get user by ID. Okay, so I'm going to use this here. I already wrote it, so I don't need to rewrite it. And that's why we use modularization. All right, so let's put that in. So I'm going to use this session ID. Let's indent a little bit, and I'll incorporate it in just a second. So I'm going to say current user equals user dot get user by ID, and then we pass in an object. In this object, we call the key value pair of user ID, and we make it equivalent to this session ID. Okay. Undefined name user. Okay, did I need to pull from my user model? Yes. So I say from Flask app dot models dot user model import user. Okay, so I make a query to get user by ID, and I pass in a key value pair of user ID, because this receives the data, where user ID is the value that we're looking for in our dictionary. We're passing in session here. Okay, so let's test this now. Restart my app. Hello, Kyle. Okay, that's a lot of work just to get a name, right? So let's now populate it from, let's populate the data from our citing read one. Okay, so let's go there. I just need to clear everything at certain points. Close all, close all. We're gonna go to the read one citing here. And Yin, I see your hands raised.
I'm sorry, I'm lost here. Can you go over the citing
Yes,
and then that one again?
yes, no problem. Before I
Like the
continue.
session one.
Yes, good at, yes. Okay, so let me go ahead and explain what just happened. So Okay. User controller citing model. So here's my read one for user. No, I need it from the citing model. So here's where we were. We wanted to read one citing so that we can show that one citing in our read one page. Okay, so this is where we query the database for this. This is our model. Okay, so this is our citing model. So this is talking to our database. This is our query that we're asking for information of this one page. Our user model, and actually I need our citing controller. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. We needed to get the name of the user that's in session, right? Right now, we just have something as ID that we're passing around, and we're checking if ID is in session, then allow us to go to this page. Allow us to go to this page. Allow us to go to this page. But on two of our pages, this one and this one, we have that welcome and then the name of the person that's in session. So all I'm doing is querying for that name of the person that's in session using the session ID. So I'm saying user get user by ID. And this method here that we had built previously, when we wanted to first land to this page, was used so that we can say select all from users where ID equals the user ID that we're passing in, or from the object that we had previously created. And then we say connect to the MySQL database with this query. And then, so this is showing me a select one from user, right? Select all from users from this here. Read one user from database. I need to read one user from the database in order to find the name of the person in session, just using the session ID. So that's why I did that here. I said current user is this class's method call to get a read one so that I can say in my read one citing page, current user dot first name, in order to get the first name of the current user logged in session. Is that making a little more sense, Nan?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay. So we have the first name here. Now let's go ahead and populate our page. We have one called Spam Musubi. So let's say that is the title of the post. So we can say here in an H2 citing that title, right? Citing that title. But in order to read this here, we actually should have that. So citing is here, and that's that read one. So let's test to see if this works. Yep, there we are. And so then we say description, under 30 minutes, instructions, date. Cool. So let's fill that in. We'll say H2, and we'll say p tag description. Description. And then we'll add citing dot description. Okay. And then we have also our we have our own table here. So let's grab from here. We have description, location, date, scene, and abducted. I'm gonna just copy each p tag and then change here. Okay. So I'm going to change this one to location. Let's then say location, date, scene, and abducted. Oops. Abducted. Okay. And so now that's done. Don't worry about the view. That doesn't matter. We can make it back to recipes here and a logout. We can just grab that from our add new recipe, right? So let's go to create citing. And then we have both, but right there. Put that right into the H1. And now let's see it. There we are. Back to, you know what? Let's do this. Okay. So now that we have this done, we can cross this page out. Read one is complete. Now we have 2 left. Actually, no, what am I thinking? We have this done as well. So we have 1 left. All right, let's make that HTML page. And then that should fulfill our update requirement. And then delete is really easy. Delete is really easy. So update's the last final challenge. Okay, what time is it? Are you guys with me still? Let's keep pushing here. And I know it's getting late, but we will finish this app. We must not stop. Okay, so what do we want to call this one? I like to call this one edit, right? Edit. So let's just call this called edit citing.html. Hold on a second. There's this dog barking outside my door. I need to quiet if I could, please. So give me a second. I'm just going to stand up and then tell the dog, shush. Sorry about that. Couldn't think with that dog barking. I'm sorry about that. All right, let's go ahead and continue. So we have our HTML page for edit. We have a let's see what we have as far as what we need to create. It's going to say edit citing. So it's going to have an H1 here saying edit citing. And what does it have in common with read one? Well, let's see. We have this so far. So let's see here. Oh, I'm not even there yet. Why do I have to check that? Okay, so I know this is going to work, but what else am I looking for? Okay, so this is a form. This is a form. And what does this form have in common with something we had already built? Everything. So all we're going to do is just check this. and slap it into here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. We're going to say our create citing. Let's take that form and copy it. Okay, and instead of sightings.create, this is going to be sightings.update. Okay, so now that we have an update route that is meant to be a post, let's go ahead and create that route in our sightings controller. Okay, so let's go ahead and declare a new route. What is this one here? This one we created, which was the route to read one sighting. Route to edit one sighting. And in addition to this, we need a route to get to this page. So let's create that as well. Route to, this is going to be the route to the edit one sighting page. So edit is really the pinnacle of combining all the different ones together. What does edit? I know we went over this with Kyle, so this should be a review at this point. What does edit have in common with everything else?
Show.
Show one. So we're getting this description. We're getting the instructions. It's also like a create where we're getting all the information. We're submitting a form. And it's an edit, it's an update, so it has a lot in common with its fellow CRUD acronyms. So let's go ahead and create this edit one route. Okay, so let's create the page to get us to, let's create the route to get us to that one page so that we can start testing our form. All right, so I'll say app.route, and we'll say this is going to take us, let's look at our model. We need to see here. It's going to say sightings, edit, and then the int, right? So we'll say sightings, edit, and then the int of the ID. And then we'll say this is the function to the edit one page, and it's going to receive an ID. The reason it's receiving an ID is so that we can make a query, right? And so let's go ahead and create an object that's going to hold the data for our query and pass in a key value pair to take in that ID from the route. Okay, so now that we have that data, we're going to make a query call called recipe.read one. Oh, sorry. Citing. Citing.read one. It's funny that it kind of read one citing. Okay, so I already built this here, so then I'm going to pass in the data. And everything sightings, yes. So now we are going to say, with this method call, we're going to assign it to a variable. Let's call it just citing. And then what we do is we show that when we return render template, we're going to return render template our edit one citing, or no, we just called it edit citing citing.html. And then also we pass in the citing, and we make it equivalent to that. Okay, so then we need a way to get to this route. So let's go ahead and pull up our dashboard HTML so that we can make the edit go here. So let's go ahead and create the route. So we'll say sightings.edit, and then we say what here. We know we need to give something important. Any guesses?
Citing the ID.
Right. Okay. All right. So now we have that. So we push in the citing.id. That should take us to this edit route. We go to this function. We have the data that we pull in that ID. Then we pass it into our query call, our read one that we already had created, read one citing, because we already created that. And then we return render template. We say citing equals citing. And then in our edit here, now we should be able to pull that information from citing. And where should I put it? Well, before we do that, I wanted to see if we can get here first. So too many questions at once. I'm sorry. I know I do that to myself and to you guys. So let me see here. I'm going to go back to my dashboard. And I say edit. And we got here. Nice. So now we just need to make this populated. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Do we remember what to do here from Kyle's session?
Kyle actually populates the edit file already with the data that already exists while you pull up that for editing, and then you could just make the changes and it saves the
Okay,
data back. So
okay. So what we want, yes, we populate it from data from the read one, right? So we have citing. So we say citing dot, and then the name of the thing in the value. It's not the placeholder, it's the value, remember? So we say citing dot title, and let's check to see if this is going to return. There we are. So we want to enter in that call in each value. So let's go ahead and put that in to every single input. Now, why am I avoiding putting it in this text area the way that you saw I just did? Yeah, and then I'm going to switch this up here. I'm going to say location. Date scene. and abducted. Now this one here, this radio, is going to be a slight difference here because let's refrain on putting a value for this one yet. I need to treat this one a little differently. So let's not put a value in for that yet. See what we have so far. Okay, I think oh, here. Dot date scene. Okay. So, oh, so there we have that, Oregon. Then we have the date entered here. So we have 3 out of 5 fields. Now, what do we need to do in order to make this work? Because if I add this value here at the top here of this text area, okay, it's not gonna like it. Value equals, and then this won't work. See, it's still not in here. I need to put this actually inside the text area. This is just a little thing to remember. Okay, so this doesn't receive a value there, but it does there. Oh, and that should say description, sorry. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and do this last check radio submit, radio input. I was going to say checklist, but I can't say that either. All right. So what we need here is a special way to pre-fill this input here. Let's make it a little cleaner to see, but I don't want to completely format yet. So here is my yes, or see, here's my no, and here's my yes. What I want to do is inside one of the, let's go to the yes value here. Inside this input is where I want to write a Jinja if statement. Okay. Inside this input is where I want to write a Jinja if statement. So here's where I'm going to say something like this. J if yes in citing dot abducted. If this is true, then say checked. And then we're going to erase this as well. And have one for this input also. Oops, I missed that caret. So I'm going to cut that, paste it here. And HTML doesn't like what it's seeing here at this point, but just ignore it. Don't worry about it. Okay, this is going to work anyways. So here I have if citing dot abducted If it's a yes, then we're going to make it checked inside this input. And then we're going to go into here and do the same thing for no.
Do we need the double curly braces around citing dot abducted?
I'm sorry, around citing what, Manjira?
Double curly braces around citing dot abducted?
No, I don't believe, no. So this should work just like this. And I'll show us why. Because this is already in a Jinja statement. So it's already in one of these Jinja statements here. And that's why this will work just fine like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and see here. And now we have a yes. Did we see how that switched? Let me view another one. So this one here, oh, that's view one. So let's edit this one. This one is a no. So now we have our saved value here at no. So we go back to sightings and then we say edit this one. He was abducted by the homeless man. Right? So this one is saved yes. Okay, so now we need to make this submit somewhere. Okay, so this form then needs to be able to send the data from here via the submit. So the submit is connected to the top of the form, and the form is to sightings.update. Right, this is where we left off on our router. So now that we have this route to the page, we need the route to work for us to delete that one sorry, not delete, what am I thinking, to edit, excuse me, getting ahead of myself. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that route. So I'm going to say app.route and sightings./update. And what can we do here? Do we remember how to create an update from our CRUD functionality? What do we need to fulfill this? Method post.
Method post.
Okay, let's create our function. Edit citing. Okay, so our citing is going to need to make a query. Well, it's going to edit, right? We're going to have to write an edit query. So imagine like further down the line, we're going to say recipe, no, sorry, citing dot update citing. Then we're going to send in some data. So let's prepare for that. Let's create a data here, an object that's going to hold what we need to pass through. So we're going to say the ID, well, first is the ID, and we're gonna get it from our form. And here's where I asked earlier about the hidden input. And so we need to find that. How do we put in a hidden input for our ID of our citing?
So Kyle does it like in that URL itself, like besides update, have two curly braces and put like citing.id in there.
Yes, exactly. So let's go ahead and put an input here. And it's going to be type hidden.
I was saying that, we don't need that, but just, in the action itself, we can just have a forward
an ID
slash.
here?
Yeah.
Pass in the ID. Well, I guess that's true. Yeah, I guess I could pass it through there. Okay, so does this receive an ID? So I guess we would throw in the ID there.
Actually, you know what? It
Yeah.
might not allow that. Yeah.
Let's put the input hidden. Yeah, I want to just go with where I'm going, because if I try something new, I might mess it up different in a different way than Kyle would have built it. So let's go ahead and say input type hidden, and then we'll say ID equals ID. We don't need an ID. That's something else. We need a value, and we need something called citing.id. So this input for here, this value, and we're going to call this something here. We're going to call the name ID. So then when we receive it from here, we can say request form ID. And we're going to say the user ID, because we're going to have to pass that in order to fulfill our table, right? Because our sightings has a user ID. What's going to be the user ID here?
What we have from session.
Yes, perfect. All right, so here we go. We're going to pass in the user ID from session. We're going to say name, and we're going to get the name of the, sorry, not name, title. We're going to say title is going to be request.form title. Description, request.form description. Location. Plus. Location. Date, scene. Okay, and then lastly, abducted. Okay. Anything else? I think we're good. All right. And why are we getting this from session? Why is user ID the session ID?
You are the creator of that host, then you can edit. You can only edit if you are the creator.
Yes, you can only edit the post, or in this case, the citing, if you are the creator. And we know you're the creator of it because you would be the only one that'd be able to view that edit button. And that edit button that you would click, being a user logged in session, you would be then the creator of this. So then we say, grab it from session. That's going to be the ID of the user ID that we're editing now. Okay, so then we'll say citing dot update citing, and we pass in the data. Okay, and one more thing I think we missed as I was describing that there. Where did we make a mistake at all in any of our routes? What did we do wrong here? We missed something. And it's the way that we would protect a user from getting to this edit page without. So you can get to this edit page if you type in the correct route. But if, we don't want them to type in the correct route because it's going to be incorrect. What if they're the wrong session IDs? We're editing now with the wrong session ID by going to this route incorrectly. So what do we got to do? We have to protect us from being able to go to this route unless the user is in session. Right, so let's go ahead and put that in here and say, if user ID not in session, then we're going to say, flash that message that's saying, you must be logged in to view this page. And then we say, session clear. And then we'll go ahead and say, return redirect to this route. So this is what is going to protect us from other users in session editing the wrong recipe, and how we can pass in session as the user ID in our data now. Okay, so now that we have our data, we have our query. And so let's go ahead and assign to this query a value of a, the name of a variable that will hold it. Okay, so let's go ahead. Well, actually, do we need to? And I'm not sure that we need to do that at this point. We do want to return redirect after we post. So we're going to say return redirect. And we're going to take us back to the sightings page. Okay, so after you run this query, return us to the sightings page. And what one further thing do we need to do to round off and finish our edit page before we can submit something? What's something here we need to do?
Save to the database.
Save to the database. Sure, yes, that's correct. But before we save anything, what do we want to check for?
Validation of
Yes,
the title.
Flash validations. Yeah, we want to flash the flash messages. Flash messages for incorrect validation. And we already have a validate method, right? So we already have a method that we can use to validate our entry. So we can say here, if not citing dot, do we have, what's the name of our method there? Citing, where's our citing model? Validate citing. If not citing dot validate citing, and then we say take in the request dot form. If this is not validated correctly, then what we want to do is redirect ourselves back to the route that we were just at. So we're going to say return us to recipes, edit, and we also need to put in the ID here, right? The way that we're gonna need an ID here. So we're gonna say
It needs to be sightings instead of recipes.
Sorry? Ah, recipe.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay, so if not citing, if we didn't validate our citing in our request form, then we're going to go ahead and return redirect. We need a colon here to complete the syntax, and I think that should work. Okay, so let's go ahead and try and test this here to see that this will work. If we can invalidate a citing, then we know that we would have done that correctly. So something else we need is the flash messages to pop up in our edit page in case we do not get that correct validation, right? So our validate citing method is prepped, ready to give us some flash messages. So let's go ahead and prepare to receive those flash messages at the top of our HTML. So let's go ahead and go to edit citing. And above the form here, below this H1, I'm going to do an HR tag to put a line. And I'm going to say right here, we're going to say for actually, we already have this built. Let's go to the create citing. And take what we see here. So let's double check what we're copying. Make sure we don't get the wrong thing here. So we say with messages, get flash messages. If there are many messages, then show us the message within the list of messages. And then here's that call for the message. So this is all right. Let's put that below our HR. And let's put in an invalid entry here. All right, so let's go ahead and refresh. Okay. So let's delete some of this. I'm going to click submit. And it went to, oh, okay. So it did go to this route. That's not good. We wanted it to not go there. So let's see if not citing and validate citing. So let's see why that doesn't work. Let's inspect here. And we received the request.form. I think it's this ID, this data.id it's not liking. Okay, that's maybe why it didn't return redirect the correct way. So let me double check that here. So what this is doing is grabbing the ID of the citing, right? And I should be able to grab it just fine like this. Data.id. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm just going to create a variable to test something else out. I'm going to say ID equals request.form ID. Okay, how about that? I'm just going to pass in this ID. Will this be okay? Will this work? Let me see here. Probably have something incomplete in my model as well. Okay, so if I still wants to go here, settings update. This if statement isn't triggering. So maybe there's something validate citing request.form, and then maybe just print something here. Think like print hello. Can we get a print saying hello? make it obvious like this. Hello. We reached line 95 in citing controller. Okay. So let's try that again. Let me restart this here. Let me clear it. Restart. We're gonna go to our sightings page. Oh, still broken. What's going on here? Okay, so here about this. Password 1. View citing. Edit. Okay, let's try and delete this. Sightings update. So I'm pretty sure it didn't trigger. That's why we didn't see that hello, we're on line. What line did I say? 95. Okay. So something here in our validation is not receiving our request properly. Let's
Do
try
you
and fix it.
pass? I'm not sure, but I was wondering if you pass data to the validate citing, or because I mean you have. I'm just wondering. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I could possibly get it from data. I'm just seeing here what I could possibly do different here. So I have ID. I think, let me see here. Let me just look from top to bottom. I have data, getting request form, session. Looking for the ID. Okay. And it's not giving me a error in my syntax here saying that I don't have that correct. I don't like this print statement anyways, so I'm going to comment this out. And this return redirect is being a little stubborn on me. Maybe I should just indent it a little bit. And then let's see here. I probably have something. So this is going to sightings update. Sightings update. Let's see. This is right. Sightings update method post. So we are hitting this method. And then we have our data.
Hey,
And then we
sorry,
have, yes, Kyle.
sorry to interrupt, but I gotta get out of here pretty soon. Is there anything I could help with in the meantime, or
Well,
last
if you
thoughts?
want to, this is our last part here before we do a delete, which should take nothing at all. Delete's really easy. We're just about to finish up wrapping up this edit here, but I am getting mixed up with the validation because
Oh.
I am not triggering this if statement if my validation method does not properly receive our request.form here.
So you're sure it's not triggering?
Yes, well, when I hit the submit button for sightings create, sorry, not sightings, not sightings create. I'm looking at edit sightings here. Is this? Oh, maybe yeah. Sightings update. Maybe it's this last slash here. Is that going to kill me? Maybe that's it. That final slash. Okay, that might be it. Okay, let's go back. Is this going to work? Okay. All right, there we are. So we had one typo, which was that there. Okay. Be careful not to add an extra character in your route that would not be there either. Okay. So now that we have our validations working, let's just test that. to make sure it's up and running. Okay, I'm going to delete this. So let's check all our validations here. Delete. Delete.
At any rate, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night.
See you, Kyle. Okay, so here we are. We have our validations set. So let's go ahead and submit. Let's change it from Canada to Mexico. And were you abducted to no? So let's submit. And we now have no attribute update citing. So that's the last piece of the puzzle. Here we are, update citing. So let's go to our citing model. Here we are. Let's create that class method. Update citing. Okay, so here we are, class method. Def update citing. Throw in here. It's going to be a lot like the create here. So let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to go to our sightings model here, and we want to go ahead and add the class data. Okay, and let's go ahead and throw in our query. Okay. Now we need to do an update query. So we're going to say update sightings. I'm going to set so okay, here's where I want to test one last time. How do we do an update?
Set parentheses with the thing you want to change.
Okay, so title,
Title, yeah. Description.
description, and we say location, date, scene, and abducted. So let's take a step back for a second and think about how we have written an update so far. Let's go into our CRUD here and go to our update. How do we set an update? We say set first name and then equal to this here. Last name equal to then this value here. So it's a little bit different than a create. So it's not going to be exactly the same, but we can just take this here and take this whole thing. Take this whole thing. Okay, so now we know this here is not going to be first name. It's going to be title. This is not going to be last name. It's going to be description. This is going to be email. This is going to be
Location.
Location. Thank you. Sorry. This
Date,
is
scene.
yes. And then we'll add one last one here. We'll say date, scene, and abducted equals S, and then we'll put down the parentheses there, and then abducted equals abducted. Where ID equals the ID of the date from the data. Okay, so I think this looks good. Anything that we could be improving upon here, let's put a space. Why is certain ones orange and certain ones white? That's odd. Let's put this below. Oh, here we are. That's more normal. Okay, so now we have our values. To set these values, let's say enter the results equals connect to MySQL, throw in the DB, query the DB with the query and the data. Then I want you to return my results. This should be indent expected. So let's move this back. Unexpected indent. So be careful with these indents. Let's find the alignment here. There we are. Okay, so now let's see if this will work for us. Okay. We said Mexico. Submit. Okay. Now, the little green man, let's go ahead and view it. Oh, it's still Canada. Gosh. All right, so what do we do here? Let's see, select all. Did we have a query run for this one? Update citing. Citing.update citing. Let me double check this. So we have our data, we pushed in our data. Then we say citing, update citing. So we need to put some print statements here. What did we get wrong? Let's see, edit here. Make this to Mexico. We should see our query trigger on our terminal. So let's see. We're going to go to our controller and see what we didn't do right. Before we go back to citings, we had called the citing.update citing. And we didn't see this query trigger anything in our terminal here. So let's reset this because it's a little messy at this point. I want to clear, run it again, refresh this, set this to Mexico. What do we have so far? Here's the data we have, and we should see the query when we click submit. We see the select. Something went wrong. Here it is. Table UFO sightings dot friends doesn't exist. Okay, sorry. I told you that you needed friends, but we have that value friends that it's trying to look for.
Oh, in the query, in your query,
My query.
inside, yeah, update friends, it should be sightings.
Ah, here it is. Okay. All right. Okay. Nope. I wanted to change this one to Mexico. Mexico. Okay. Now let's view this one. There we are. We edited now our citing. Okay. Now we have our last but not least functionality, delete. and this should be very simple. All we need to do is create a delete route, and then from there, we just add the route in our HTML link.
Can you please tell what was the mistake? I was on a different screen and I missed.
Yes, the last mistake that I had made was I had not updated this value here to the right table. So it was still on friends because I copied it from here saying friends. And
Ah.
we found that by going to this here, and I saw this error. Something went wrong. So anytime a query does not happen, we should see the query no matter what, whether it's successful or not. So we see here this is wrong. So we went to see, we said friends doesn't exist. We're not dealing with friends. So we got the wrong query because we copied it and refilled it for the sake of showing where to find it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So now we can edit any citing. The last functionality that we are working on is delete.
So I wanted to mention one thing about delete.
Yes.
So it took me a while to figure out how to do the delete because it would throw an error because when we try to delete of a specific ID and it is having a connection with the the other table
Mhm.
through the foreign key, it wouldn't let me delete.
Okay.
I don't know if we'll encounter that problem in this case, though.
Okay, let's see how far I can get then. I will try to hope that I don't encounter it, and then I'll show us if I do get it right, why. Okay, so then we can explain why you had some problem with it. So we'll say this is the delete route. So this is the route, delete route to remove a citing. Okay. Now I'm gonna go ahead and finish this out. Let's go ahead and say app.route route. And what is this going to be? Let's think here. We can make our own route. There's no set. Oh, I lost my footing with the wireframe. Here it is. So this delete route, it's it doesn't have a specification so as to what that needs to be. Doesn't say here, doesn't say anything. So we're going to make our own route for delete. So we're going to say sightings dot delete. And then we need something specific here, like Manjira just said, which is going to be the ID, the specific ID of that sighting. Okay, so I am going to then say in this int, we say sighting ID. So because we know we're going to need the sighting ID. Okay, let me create some space here so we can see this a little easier. Okay, so let's go ahead and say def delete citing. And then this one's going to take in the citing ID. What did I miss here? Why don't you like this? It's because I don't need this here. I need this here. That's just a decorator. Okay. So, all right, let's go inside. Now our delete route, what does it need? It takes in an ID. So let's go ahead and say this current sighting. So this this sighting, we're going to give it a dictionary value so we can receive and pass in that ID for the query. We're going to say ID equals the citing ID. And then we're going to say citing dot delete citing, and then pass in this citing. Okay, so now that we have called a delete method, we need to create this method. So let's go ahead and add that in. Last piece of the puzzle, delete citing. Okay, so let's say class method, and what I want is to say this one is for delete. So I'm gonna say one second, let me think here. This one is going to be a class method because we are going to receive the data from here in order to delete it. So let's go ahead and say we're going to take in the class method def delete citing, and then we're going to take in a class, and then we're going to say we're going to also receive data. This data is going to be this citing here that we're passing in. Okay, so then query, and who can give me a delete query?
Delete from citing where ID.
Yep, delete from citings where ID equals, and then we do that special entry, ID equals ID, right? Because this ID is what we're giving as the data value here, ID of the citing ID. So we're passing it in here, and where it equals ID, we're gonna pass it in the data, and we're gonna delete from this. We're gonna select from this object, this ID value. Okay, so then now that that's done, let's go into results and say connect to MySQL. And we're gonna say connect to DB and then query database. Query for use the query that we gave you and the data that you've received. And so what else do we need here? Delete here. And oh, we need to, okay, we saved results. Okay. What's it expecting? Let's just finish out the return. I think that's it. I think that's all we need. Do we need a return? Yes, we do. What we can do is this. So we can say if, for example, we hit this route and results is none, then we can return a line that says success. This is just for our sake here, or else we can return a line that says failure. Okay, but it's still not liking something I did here, and it's bugging me, so I'm not sure what it is, but I'm gonna have to find out. So I have my results, connect to MyDB, send the query and the data. I have my string. It doesn't like this here. Delete citing. Maybe it's the place where my class method is. That should be fine. Okay, well, this is the last piece of the puzzle if anyone wants to help me figure this out. There's something here that I missed in order to make this work. Citing. Let me try to retype this in. Delete citing. Okay. Does this not receive the class and data? Unexpected new moment. Maybe there's nothing actually wrong at all, and that my system here is trying to confuse me. Let's just test it. Okay, so I have my route here for delete. Let me just take a look at my route. Is there anything that I could improve with my route? I do need to return redirect to where I already was. So I'm going to say return redirect back to sightings. For some reason, this still wants to be angry at me. Okay, so let's see here. See if it runs. Okay, it's still working. It runs. So let's see here. If I delete this here, okay, it says something should have said it broke. It didn't even give me a query, so I know it didn't get here. It didn't even trigger this here. So what could be the issue? Update citing. I'm looking here to see if there's something. Let me just see if there's another error that's going to pop up if I comment out this whole thing. Still doesn't like it. Why can that be? How about this? I'm going to just copy it, delete it, and there's still an error. Okay, so there's something else here that's giving me an error on my page that's not my delete route. Is it this here? Turn results. I mean, this could look a little better. Let me see if I can format document. Okay. Well, it doesn't want to be descriptive. Doesn't matter. Let's see if it still works. How about that? So if I edit here and I say California, if I see citing, it will say California. If I see here, it will still say Mexico. If I edit here, and if I change to Puerto Rico, and I see here, then it still works, even though there's this supposed error. So let me go ahead and paste that back in and see what is going on. It does not match outer indentation, so let's push it in. There. Is that it? Is that going to be better now? Okay. So I'm sorry. I'm trying to debug this thing here, and I know why it's now not working. Okay, so the reason it's not working, the reason it's not even triggering is because we didn't properly connect here to pass in an ID, which was Mangira's question the whole time. How do we pass in this right ID from this thing here? So let's go ahead and go there. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to our dashboard. And for our delete route, let's go ahead and wrap this up. What can we do in order to make our delete route work for us nicely? We need to pass in an ID, right? So we can say sightings dot delete, and then in here we'll just say sighting ID, same as the edit. Okay, so now if I click delete, there it is. And it works the same way we got the ID for edit and for view. It is the same ID. And so now that we've done that, we've finished. Okay. I know we have some questions here. Manjir, did that resolve any of the confusion you would have had for getting the ID for the delete route?
So I could resolve my confusion, but it took me a while. I'm not sure how it actually allowed the delete here, because so now each ID of ours, like each user, has maybe like 2 sightings, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so uh, when they are joined, the tables are joined, so that particular other sighting of that user is still there, is still. So when you delete the user, it cannot let its attributes, or the other sightings still exist. So that's what it was doing
Oh,
for
I
me.
see. Okay, so you want it to be, if you delete a user, the sightings related to that user also delete as well.
That's what I was trying to do. Are we trying to do that here, or are we
No.
just deleting the sighting?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Because
So that's why it didn't cause a problem.
okay, exactly. So that's what I was hoping to resolve. So the only thing we're passing in is the ID of the sighting the specific sighting we want to delete. We're not deleting users, and we wouldn't be on your test either. On your test, we would just be deleting the posts of the user. So what we have here, now that I've done all of this, what we have is your exam, basically. All this that I have done at this point is going to be very similar to the exam. If there's anything different, it'll be just a slightly different query call for slightly different data. But I'm letting you guys know, since you stuck it out this whole time, the reason I was so persistent in getting this done is because once you have this code, all you need to do is change the name of the variable, right? If this is about posts, then instead of citing, you change it to posts. Or if this is about recipes, you change from sightings to recipes. That's why I was getting it so confused the whole time, because I'm looking here at recipes and I'm seeing here, this is exactly the same as what a citing would be. Whatever you call it, it'll just appear as the name, and you just change the data or the table according to what you need. But this app here is going to be what your test is going to be asking you for, basically, in whatever form we give you the test. Okay. And if you can understand this, if you can understand how it works, not just copy and paste it, but now that you've taken the time to fully understand it, you'll now be able to say, okay, if I can complete this in time, I'm a full stack developer. The reason is anyone can copy a full stack code, right? Anyone can copy this app. There's plenty of CRUD apps that are out there on the internet that you can, download and make use and make it work for yourself. But here, now you have one that you have all the functionality you could build from scratch, and you know how it works. Okay, Nian, you have a question?
Um,
Sorry,
so,
Manjira,
but
as well.
oh,
Sorry, let's finish Manjira's question. Sorry. Manjira?
Okay, so I was just gonna ask if, if we are supposed to be even checking for the case when another user signs in, right? Like, so for that, then the corresponding posting should get editable and viewable,
Yeah,
and these should get covered up. So I mean,
yes,
uneditable. So
yes. So let's do that. Let's do that. Let's show that now. Right now, I'm logged in as myself, Josh, right? If I'm logged in, I can only edit and view and delete my posts. So what I want to do is log out and log in as Kyle, K-Y-L-E-M, at email.com, and then password 1, log in. And now I can edit Kyle's posts and I can only view Josh's post. Do you see that there? We built that at the point where we were doing our dashboard. And the way we did that was by saying here, right here in this if statement, we said if session user ID is equal to citing user ID, which is the name of the ID in the table, that if it matches our ID, we know that we created it. Do you see how that works there? Okay. So again, you guys have done the hard work for the test just now. You finished the hard part of the test, which is understanding this. All you need to do now is take this code and make it and adjust it to whatever else you need. Now, again, like what I was doing there, I was thinking recipes and I was typing in and I accidentally typed in a recipe where, there is no recipe in this citing app, right? So you have to be careful of that. Now that you have this template, you have to be careful when you're copying over or using this template, but it's there and you can use it. And all you have to do now is change the names of the routes, change the names of the methods, change the names of the class to reflect that thing that you are creating as a one-to-many, the name of the many table. Instead of citings, recipes, instead of recipes, maybe hobbies or wishes as a wish list. My test exam was a wish list when I was a student. So yeah, I had to do this. And the funny thing about when I was a student is that all the code in all the controllers and the models, it was all in the server.py. It was all in one place. So it was very hard to figure out where I was. I had to scroll up and down constantly, leave a bunch of comments to let myself know. All right, so that's that. I'm sorry I went on a little rant there. Manjira, did you have any other questions before I move on to Nian?
no, not right now. Thank you.
Okay. Nian?
hi Josh, I do have 2 questions. So can you go back to your code where the delete is? Yeah, the controller, citing controller on your right. Yeah,
Okay.
and go to the delete thing. Yeah, so the first question is, so you can make whatever variable you want after like in the line 105, right? The int string citing
Yeah.
underscore ID. Because I was thinking, yeah, can you put citing.id? Then I just realized, is it just a variable?
It's just the name of, yeah, it's just whatever I choose it to be.
Okay, so it can be ID or anything else.
Yes.
Okay, and the second question is, do you need to check the user ID in the session to be able to delete citing?
That is a good question. And I think that should be a yes. Now, I did not consider that, But the thing is, it's hard to protect against putting in this route because well, actually, you know, let's do it. Let's see if we can make it do it. Okay, so let's just grab it from here.
Copy and paste it.
Yeah, let's just copy paste it. Protect our deletes. Excellent idea. I had not done that yet. Okay, so how about we just say you must be logged in.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's try and delete one. So what's this ID for green lights? Let's check here. Select all from sightings. And we have 1, 3, and 4 left. So we're gonna say sightings dot delete 4. So let's log out. Type in sightings delete 4. Okay, let's see now if we actually deleted it because we didn't see the session with a flash message. Okay, so we're gonna say,
I think you can see it in the terminal.
oh yeah. Good idea. No, it didn't go through, so I didn't see my database trigger, and I just want to see that it's still there. It's still there. So I protected myself from that. Yes.
What if you're logged into another account, and then it checks if you're in session? Would you be able
Okay.
to still delete it from that particular route?
Yes, good idea. So what we're checking in this one here, if user ID not in session. So this is going to be the ID of the user in session. And okay. So you could technically do that, Jacob. And the way that we would prevent against that is saying if user ID in session and if user ID is not equal to help me finish the logic here. If the user ID in session is not equal to the user ID of the creators here, so we actually need that creator ID. So this is a very specific way to prevent a delete, right? Now you're preventing deletes from the route from other users being logged in. So that's another one, but we're not going to test you on that in case you're wondering. But good question. I think what we would do here is say you have to check that the user ID of the person in session is equal to the ID of the creator of this post, right? So whoever created this post, if it's not equal to the user ID in session, then delete. And so how do we pull in that creator ID? We'd have to pass it in here, citing ID. We're pulling it from the route. And so we're getting the ID of the thing. So we'd have to do a query here, actually. We'd have to do a query to find out who's the creator of the post and check to see if that post creator ID is the same as our user ID in session. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, I know that was complicated, but you don't have to have that done for your test, just so you know. But then if you had that, then that would be the last thing that you need to make your app super secure. But there's still a lot of things that we could do to improve our app. We have the functionality, we have everything protected except for that very specific delete. And that'll be something I'll probably work on after this, but I won't keep you guys in order to figure that out because that's not required. And we don't need to worry about that. But it is something I will now be curious about and work on after this. So with that being said, you guys are ready for the exam tomorrow. And I know you guys are probably super tired at this point, but you have the code. I'm going to post this on GitHub, in fact. Okay, I'm not going to let everyone know that. Only you guys that have stayed here this long. That I'm posting this on GitHub in case you want to take a look at the app for yourself. And then tomorrow you have the exam. So what you could do is just, figure out how the code that we worked on today works, if you didn't already recreate it yourself. And then consider if you want to take the exam tomorrow. But again, we have until next Wednesday to take our third attempt of the exam. And all we have is projects week after tomorrow, basically. So after today, you're going to be able to work on your own CRUD app for whatever project you desire. But let's focus on how we can make the exam work. What do we need to set up before we get started? And in fact, what we could do is use this app as a boilerplate if you're really feeling courageous about actually getting all the variables interchanged. Okay, so you can reference all your past work and this code. What I don't want to see is, my code, right? So make sure you rewrite it yourself if you're going to use this as a reference. Okay, now let's go ahead and end the recording because I know we're all miserable here and we need to take a nap. So let's go ahead and finish this up. Thank you guys for your persistence. I admire your guys' tenacity. And so let's go ahead and call this a day. I've had a fantastic day with you all. You guys are troopers and I appreciate your hard work and questions here. So, and I thank your patience as well because, I've made my mistakes. But I hope that I was able to pass along the knowledge of how the app works, how it's connected, and how the data flow should be understood. Okay, so let's go ahead and end this now. End this recording.